you're going to find people that really know you, and you're going to find fulfillment in that. It's going to be icky. It's going to be a process, but it is going to be worth it.
And now,
I'm the captain now.
coming to you from the K2 Studios in San Diego, California.
This sounds great. You sound amazing.
I always sound amazing.
It's the world famous
Everybody's hitting off like BFFs.
Kris and Kristine Show.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for listening, and I am Kris.
And I'm Kristine, and welcome to episode 146 of the Kris and Kristine Show. Do-do-do-do.
Fantastic. It's great to get the band back together. I got Kristine back here in the studio, live and in the flesh.
Yeah, I heard that you tried to replace me last week. How'd that go for you?
Actually went pretty well, John swinging on by here from New York City. By the way, I flew him in here first class on the private jet.
All right, well, maybe you should replace me permanently, because it's like when they got rid of Kathy Lee Gifford on the Regis and Kathy Lee show, and she just was like burned and scorned and all of that stuff. Like, are you just going to replace me? Am I out now? Is it now the All About Kris show?
You know what? I got a show dedicated specifically for that. Actually, I got two shows dedicated for that.
Because it takes two to feed your ego?
It sure does. I have, of course, the world famous K2 radio station, which is playing live 24/7 on the Live 365 app. You can find that at live365.com and type in K2 radio. Thank you very much.
And I'm asking you, is that all about you?
No, what's all about me, I guess, would be the Podtastic audio podcast, which you can find that link to it right here on the Kris and Kristine Show website, which is krisandkristineshow.com. I know I'm throwing a lot at you right out the gate, but
yeah, way too much, Mr. Used Car Salesman. So my point was, you replaced me last week. By the way, everybody, he did not ask how I felt about it. Kris just did it. I was gone. I was working out of town for the weekend and had family stuff. And I get a call from you that you decided to record an episode that I wasn't on. Is that the first one? I mean, there's been one where you had to fly solo, I think.
Just with an interview I did, because that interview happened to fall into a time where you were out of town.
And out of reach, like out of internet accessibility. But this one, you actually went ahead and replaced me. I will be very honest, I was not happy.
You know what? I'm sorry. I really am sorry, babe. I thought for a second, instead of not doing an episode last week, I was like, what if I can have somebody come on? We can just, talk about different things and just be a fun, random episode. Not a normal episode, just like a random episode.
It's like if the Spice Girls got rid of Victoria Beckham and just said we're just gonna, bring Anne Hathaway in as a Spice Girl without even talking to Victoria Beckham. Or it's like if Brooks and Dunn weren't a singing group anymore, or Brooks was hey, instead of Dunn, we're going to have, Undone is going to be our new singer.
Undone.
And they're going to replace you. It's I don't know. It just, I appreciate
I'm sorry.
I'm finishing.
Okay.
I appreciate you were trying to get an episode out, but we had agreed that we weren't going to do an episode last week, and it hurt my feelings.
I'm so sorry,
and
babe.
I think it hurt everybody else's feelings out there. Not to discount the guests that you had on the show, but I think that the guests were hurt that you replaced me.
Well,
you need to apologize to them.
You mean the listeners were hurt, not the guests. The listeners.
Yes, you know what I mean. Our audience, our audience members, our listeners. I think they were deeply hurt that you tried to replace me and make it all about you.
It's the Kris and Kris show.
It's basically my life, everybody. Welcome to the Smith household.
Well, you know how it goes.
So they're still waiting for an apology.
I said I was sorry.
No, we didn't actually hear that.
Listen, babe, I'm very...
No, listen to our listeners.
Okay, everybody, ladies and gentlemen of the audience and the jury of the world, I am sorry that Kristine was not available.
What? That is not an apology. It's not that I wasn't available. You need to apologize. Real apology. Come on now.
Okay, I'll try. Here we go. That's so difficult sometimes.
This is what I live through, everybody.
I am so sorry, babe, that I did not have that I tried to put an episode out without you.
Thank you.
I didn't keep you in the loop of what was going on. I am so sorry.
We all accept your apology, all 1 million of us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. That means so much weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Thank you so much.
We appreciate that. I am now trying to grab our puppy. If you haven't heard, Clover the podcasting puppy is in the studio and she's decided to chew on something that I don't know what it is, but you might hear her wandering around because she is our favorite little podcast mascot.
She is the podcasting mascot of the Kris and Kristine show. She actually wears a little jingle bell and says Kris and Kristine show.
No, it doesn't.
And she actually has her own little iPhone, and her favorite podcast is the Kris and Kristine show. She told me.
You know what we need to do is we need to change our Kris and Kristine show our logo for the show and have a little puppy on there now too.
Oh, we totally can do that. You know,
yeah.
Hey, I don't know if you ever updated the new iPhone update that came out like last week, I think it was, but one of the coolest new features of the new iPhone update is in your Photos app is that if you click on a photo, you could actually like crop out, like really clean, like crop out the image of the person or dog or whatever it is you want to crop out. And I've only noticed this only works with Instagram stories, but if you're building an Instagram story, like say you have your backdrop, your main image you put in there, you can now insert other images on top of it. And it looks very clean. Well, clean as it can be for an iPhone kind of job. But you can easily put Clover, crop her out of whatever, and put her into any image you want.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Well, you know, Clover the podcasting puppy, I would like to make her into an emoji. You know, we have our cute little Bitmojis, but I needed a little dog emoji.
Well, that's probably an app for that. I'm sure you can figure that stuff out. You're pretty good at that stuff.
A Petmoji. Petmoji Clover.
So how has your week been? I know that you were gone for 2 weeks off the podcast. So where have you been, babe?
I wasn't gone for 2 weeks.
Yes,
I was gone for one.
You were gone for 2 full weeks on the podcast.
How was I gone for 2 full weeks?
Because this week and then the week that you were off and the week before that.
I think you need help counting, but so how I am is just busy, you know, keeping busy with work and with weddings. I mean, it's in the middle of San Diego's peak post-summer wedding season.
Why is now like the busy time for weddings here anyways?
Because our weather is really nice and not everybody likes to get married in the dead of summer when it's super hot. And so September, October, November is like peak wedding.
Because it's still sunny enough to where, like, when does the real, like, hardcore rain start happening? You can get rain any time of year, really. But most of it, I think, is like March and April. But November's got some showers, too, a little bit. You're playing with fire. You're playing with fire in November. You book a wedding.
I don't think so. I mean, it's just really nice. And it's always, like, our busiest seasons in San Diego for weddings. But I've been busy. I've had weddings and wedding stuff every weekend. And this coming week is no exception. I have 2 weddings coming up. And it's just a super busy time of year. And I've just been really busy with keeping up with all of my clients and then doing my consulting work. And I just keep saying and a lot. I don't know. I've just been, keeping grinding, basically. That's it.
Well, it's so good to have you back. I mean, we all love you having back. And Clover here is in the room with us. And Clover here says, hello, Mom. I miss you so much. I want you here.
Yeah, she loves me so much. Don't pull on her. Kris, you just choked her. Oh my gosh. She's like,
that was a choke. It's a love hug.
Yeah, all right. Well, how's your week been going?
It's been very busy. I'm going to pass Clover over to you here.
Clover's over here now.
Yeah,
all right.
Clover's with our favorite person. She loves you more than she loves me, I think.
All right.
She tells me all the time. Every time I come home, like I look at Clover, because I'm going to check on Clover. And I see her. She's like, what? Oh, Dad's home? Oh, okay. Here's the person that feeds me. Great. But when you come home, it's like trumpets and roses and the big parade. And she gets super excited. It's like that thing out of every little Disney fairy tale movie. I think it's Cinderella when they get married at the very end and they have like sparkles and fireworks and all kinds of stuff thrown in the air. They got a big wedding. It's a big celebration. That's what goes through her head every time you walk in the door.
Well,
but not
good.
me.
At least for somebody in my life. Thank you. Well, how's your week been going?
It's been going really well. Podtastic Audio actually recorded 2 interviews back to back. Well, same week, I guess. Back to back interviews with 2 big names in podcasting.
Oh, really? Who are they? Do I know them?
Maybe. I will tune in and find out. I can't give away all my secrets now.
All right.
But the first episode, it's actually out right now. It's with another podcaster that helps podcasters podcast like I do. And he's making a ton of money doing it. So he also was big into real estate too. He owns a bunch of real estate, like millions of dollars of real estate.
Wow.
And we're talking about that. And that was on the most recent episode as you hear this, of Podtastic Audio. And the next guest I have on is a big name in the podcasting space. He actually created something called Pod News, which is a dedicated like website dedicated on daily podcasting news for the industry.
Okay.
More of the industry, like nuts and bolts industry type of stuff. So he's been in radio. We talked about radio. It was a really fantastic episode. I cannot wait for it to come out. It's going to be next week's episode. So it got me thinking about doing a couple extra things for podcasters. And I was thinking because people always ask me hey, Kris, why aren't you coaching anybody to podcast? Why aren't
people always ask you that? What kind of people?
Other podcasters, of course, they've always said, hey, your advice is always so great. I've always been number one. I don't like to brag that much.
People say that to you?
Yeah, of course, all the time. So
all the time, all these people.
They do. And the funny thing is that I don't like to brag, but
I don't like to brag, but I'm going to brag.
But Podtastic Audio has been ranked number one for 5 weeks running, and
on Good Pods, right?
Yeah, it's been dancing around number one spot under the classification for education and under courses. So,
wow,
my podcast is considered an educational course. I guess I didn't think about that.
That's pretty cool. Did you ever think you'd be a teacher?
Yeah, I did, but only for the cool kids. I'd be like the cool kid teacher.
Except you love all the nerd podcasts.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I guess they are the cool kids, yeah.
So, but anyway, so I thought about doing some coaching. I'm kind of putting a whole package together where I could have other podcasters that were struggling with their show and want to make sure it sounded fantastic, like the one you're hearing to right now, and all that fun, fantastic stuff. So I said, why not put a little package together and try to update a Calendly account so I can have schedule meetings with people. And that's
cool.
Yeah. So
now, do you actually work on top of this? Because it sounds to me like you've just quit your job in the last couple of days.
It would seem like that. Right. Actually, no, this is going to be, that's why I need the Calendly account. Now, if you don't know what Calendly is, it's a booking system that allows you to book guests or appointments or whatever you want.
Oh, my word.
I know.
You act like you're such a pro in Calendly. And
you taught me how to use Calendly.
You barely know how to use it, goofball.
I do barely know how to use it.
You need to stop plugging stuff. Right now, let's just talk.
It's called the plug show?
Yeah, my gosh. It's people are going to tune out and you're people aren't paying you. We're not being sponsored. Just
sponsored by such
them.
And such.
No. So finish telling me about your week. Other than podcasting, because that's only one fraction of your world. What else has been happening in your life with work and kids and family?
Well, the other small fraction that you're referring to is I went to work and it was fine and dandy. I did that the entire week. And then the kids were here, took them to school. Actually, Jacob, the 12-year-old, is in football. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's actually playing football. Not real football. It's flag football.
Well, I mean, not tackle football, but flag football, still real football.
Right. So he had a few games. He won the last 2 games when he had practice and stuff. He's having so much fun doing it, by the way. And it's kind of it's fun watching him play because it's all flag football and they don't play.
Oh, did you go see him?
No, I had some video that was shot and sent my way.
Okay.
So anyways, they run across the field. Their field is diagonal. It's not the entire length of the football field. It's a crosswise.
Oh, okay.
So it's much shorter. I don't know how many downs they do or how many how it all works, but they don't kick field goals. I heard they just run across and do touchdowns.
That's awesome. What position is he playing?
I think he said he's playing wide receiver.
Oh, he'd be really good at that.
Yeah, but they also play both sides. So when they do play, it's both defender and offense. So it's not like they've got a whole defense team or an offense team. It's all, they play both, right? So he's super excited because he caught a couple interceptions.
That's amazing.
I asked him, do you run it back for a pick six? He said, no.
What's a pick six?
A pick six is when it gets picked off by the defender and run back for a touchdown, which is 6 points.
Oh.
Pick six.
Oh, well, I would have just said, did you catch it and run it for a touchdown? Instead of a you pick 2 Panera combo.
Okay. So anyways, he's super excited doing that. He loves doing that stuff.
Yeah, that sounds great.
He's not so much into basketball like he was. And Mason, I asked him yesterday, I said, hey, he used to love soccer. And now he's not much into soccer anymore. Now he wants to play baseball and maybe some football. But he's like, soccer's boring. Nobody likes soccer anymore. Dude, you used to love soccer. Are you kidding me? Oh, you're so good.
Kids grow up and they get into different things. But right now he's into Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, I did take him over to this new shop in the mall yesterday, and it's this like it's called Stacks or something. Stacks, like stacks of cards or something like that.
Okay.
It's all like collectible like cards. We're talking like baseball cards, football cards, and a whole section of Pokemon cards. And there were some cards in there worth so much money. Like they haven't had the glass, you know. They had some Pokemon cards that were like I think they were a couple $1,000s a piece.
That's so crazy.
For a piece of cardboard. I know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess people have collected baseball cards for years, but those are like real humans with real accomplishments. And
wait a second,
like,
you're saying Pokemon is not a real person? He's Pokey.
He's not a man. It's not
Pokemon, right?
Yeah, Mon. What's up
But
Mon?
the card I got Mason was like I think I paid $12 for it at
for a card.
A single card, yes, $12.
Why did you pay for that?
Well, he's supposed to pay you back. We're waiting on the money still. Waiting on the funds for him to pay back.
Did he have the cash in his hand?
He did not have the cash in his hand. So he says, hey.
So he just went to the Bank of Kris?
Pretty much. He said that I've got the money at Mom's house. Okay, great. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to text your mom and say, hey, I'll buy you the card, but then your mom, the Apple Pay me the money. So I sent her the Apple Pay request for $12.
And have you gotten the money back?
No, I have not gotten the money back. Speaking of which, I got to get back on that. Figure out some of that.
I mean, that's on Mason. He owes you $12. Well, so you took them shopping. It sounds like you had some fun. Jacob's been involved in football. I saw Ezekiel actually last weekend. I was up there and I spent time with him. He was up with my parents, so they picked him up on Friday. And he spent time with them on Saturday because there was a family baby shower for my niece, Jocelyn.
Nice.
And he got to hang out with them. And so then the next day on Sunday, I was throwing a baby shower for Jocelyn, but with all the ladies. So I didn't get up there to see him until, well, he was asleep on Saturday night when I got there, but I got to spend all day Sunday with him. And gosh, he's getting so tall and he's a senior and he's doing so good in school, and he was such a huge helper to my parents with setting everything up. He's such a great kid. I just am so proud of him. I can't believe how big our boys are getting.
I know. Like I was looking at Jacob the other day, actually today, I'm like, gosh, he's like getting like, I think he eats a lot of like protein though too. He's not like on Skittle diet, some kids are Skittles and Coke, but he's getting kind of like, he's not getting big, like fat big, but he's getting kind of like that.
He's getting like he's bulking up like he's bulking up like he's getting strong. And
right.
I think that happens with kids is like they bulk up, they get strong, especially when they're in athletics, and then they stretch. But one of the things I've really been thinking about as our boys have been getting older is like who they're hanging around with at school and how do we keep them finding like really good high quality friendships.
Right. Because right now they're in that zone where like Jacob's telling me he's got all these friends at school, because I asked him the other day, I said, how many friends you got in your little group? Oh, only 20 or so. I'm like, how's that even possible? How do you have like 20 friends at school? Or maybe it's 20 people he knows. I mean, 20 tight friends? I don't know if that's...
I don't know. Yeah, but, speaking of friends, we have a great expert that's on the show this week who's going to talk with us about making deep and meaningful friendships, and we're going to be back with him right after this. Are you in the middle of wedding planning and feeling overwhelmed? There's no need to fret, my friend. Kristine Smith Designs is here to rescue you. Offering wedding planning, coordination, and wedding floral design services, let us help relieve your stress and make your wedding day dreams a reality. Visit us at KristineSmithDesigns.com. That's KRISTINE SmithDesigns.com and request a free consultation. You'll be so glad you did. And welcome back, everybody. Today we have another fantastic VIP guest that I am very excited about. He is a coach, a podcast host, and focuses on helping people create lasting friendships. Welcome to the show, Coach Lee Hopkins.
Hello. Hi, Kristine.
Hey, Lee. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well today. Fantastic.
Did you enjoy your flight over here on our private VIP jet into the K2 studios?
Oh, I've never flown such amazing service before. It's been amazing.
And the pilot Jeff was pretty good for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 5 stars. 5 stars.
Awesome. We're so glad. We'll keep him around.
I keep telling him to stop doing loops with all the guests, before they get here. They're trying to show off. I don't get it,
Well, speaking of traveling, where are you traveling from over the airwaves to join us today?
I'm in Chicago, Illinois.
Ooh, Chicago, Chi-Town.
Are you guys seeing a change for the weather in Chicago where it's slipping more into fall, real fall, or do you still have a heat wave?
Oh, it's real fall. I think we had a heat wave a couple of days ago. It was warmer a couple of days ago, but it's starting to get cooler now. It's really starting to get fall-like weather.
I was just going to ask that if you have actual seasons in Chicago. We're based in San Diego, and our seasons go from like warm to hot to cool, but the leaves never really change until they're just gone one day. But do you have that like where the trees actually turn to like orange and yellow and beautiful fall?
It is so beautiful too. Yes, it's so beautiful. And you know, some people think that we don't have those seasons here in Chicago because people are like, it's hot and it's cold and that's all it is. But you have to really just pay attention. Just be mindful of it. The leaves are changing and the weather changes, but if you're paying attention to it, we'll see it. We'll see it. I mean, I've been to San Diego before, and I understand, I understand what you mean about how the weather just changes instantly.
Yeah, definitely. So how long have you lived in Chicago?
I lived in Chicago for about 7 years. Before that, I lived in the Central Valley in Chicago, in California, not Chicago. The Central Valley,
Really?
California.
So did Kristine over here.
What area were you from?
So Modesto, I lived in Modesto area.
Oh my gosh, I'm from the Fresno area. Welcome, Central Valley peeps.
The
Yay, what's going
Fresno.
I know, Fresno.
Yes.
Modesto wasn't much better.
Oh, is Modesto closer to the coast?
No.
It's not?
No, it's closer to Sacramento.
Oh, what am I thinking? I'm thinking of like San Jose probably.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of, definitely. That's like closer to Silicon Valley. But Modesto and Fresno are more similar than we would like to admit.
Ah, gotcha.
It's very true.
So
it's just really hot.
What led you to the move from the Central Valley all the way out to Chicago?
Well, at the time, I had a job opportunity that moved me out. So I got promoted from my job and the headquarters was in Chicago. And I was like, this is amazing. This is the best place I've ever lived.
That's amazing. What do you love the most about Chicago?
Well, the most about Chicago, because I can go on and on for real. Like, I know Chicago, people say it has a bad rap because of this, that, and that, but there's so much to see and so much to do. But I think the best thing I like about Chicago is the ability to get around. The transit is just amazing.
Do you guys have like those overhead trains that run by, right?
Yeah, we have the light rail train. Light rail train. We have that.
Wasn't the Batman Dark Knight movies filmed there in Chicago, I believe?
I don't know for sure, but I've definitely seen some places closed off because of shooting, like filming.
Right, of course, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Filming.
I think the movie While You Were Sleeping was based in Chicago,
that's what
too.
I missed. Sorry, I didn't see that. I was actually sleeping during the movie, so there you go.
Okay, but now that you are self-proclaimed Chicagoan?
Chicagoan? I think Chicagoan is
Chicagoan. Big question for you is there's always a debate about who in Chicago has the best deep dish pizza. What camp do you live in? If you were to pick a deep dish pizza place, who would you go to?
Well, I would certainly pick Lou Malnati.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Okay, so you're on the same page. I know some people talk about Giordano's and some other places, but Lou Malnati's just original sausage pizza is where you need to be.
It is so good.
It is. I brought a friend here and they said that it was life-changing. They enjoy pizza so much. And they were just
life-changing for pizza.
It really is, Chris.
Okay.
It is.
Okay, is it really deep dish where you have to need like a fork and knife to eat it? Like
No. See, no, deep dish doesn't need to be that way. There's too much cheese, too much sauce, too much of this. It's just the right amount. The crust is really crunchy and it's buttery and all kind. The sauce is so flavorful. Oh boy. Okay. I'm hot and bothered over here.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get some Lou Malnati's. I heard that they now ship internationally, and I was actually thinking about
possible?
It's like I think it's like on dry ice, or not internationally. Sorry.
Okay.
Within the country, cross nationally.
That delivery driver's getting one hell of a tip. Let me tell you, if he's got to drive that far.
No, I think that it comes like frozen, and then you have to bake it. But I don't know. I had Lou Malnati's one time when I was in Chicago, and I was hooked ever since. And I dream of the day when I'll be able to come back and have some Lou Malnati's deep dish pizza.
Yes, it is wonderful. So definitely highly recommend that pizza.
Do you have any other favorite things that you enjoy doing in Chicago other than the transportation and deep dish?
Oh, yeah. Chicago has really great, a great view of the lake. And so I do like to go by the lake, and I don't live too far from it. I live about 15 minutes away from it. So I can go to the lake, and there's a nice path or a nice trail to walk down. People are exercising around it all the time. So there's lots of nature and stuff. There's some interesting drum circles that happen, which is really cool to see a bunch of people, different cultures and fun things. So I really just like to absorb the scenery. And that's my favorite thing to do in Chicago.
Like people watch, right? Kind of just like
Yeah.
see what they're doing. Yeah, there's a lot of places. I always say that if you ever go to a Disney theme park, talk about
People watching.
Yes, because you get like that, or maybe a casino. Because casinos, they don't judge. Casinos, they've got all walks of life coming to a casino. Old, young, it doesn't matter. I mean, because everybody, gambling is gambling, and I guess the same thing too with Disney. But those Disney people, they've got like tattoos across their arms of everything. I mean, Disney tats are crazy.
You must be different kind of people watching in Chicago.
Yeah.
So
People are people everywhere, I think.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's a really great city to live in. Now, do you live right inside of the city or in the suburbs?
Oh, I wouldn't dare say I lived in Chicago if I lived in the suburbs.
Is that like underlining rule that if you have to live like inside the city limits
I guess it's just my own personal feeling, because there are so many neighborhoods. Because when somebody tells me they were born here in Chicago and somewhere, and I'm definitely not born in Chicago, but I'm accustomed to people asking what neighborhood they live in, and they're like, "No, I don't live in the city." But you just said you were from Chicago. I thought we were going to be able to connect to each other. No, you live in Naperville, which is a little distance out. We live in the suburbs somewhere. I'm like, I'm always sorely disappointed when I hear people say that. So I don't say that I live out of the city. I live in the Chicago city limits.
Check that out.
Now, moving cross country 7 years ago, it seems like that would bring a pretty major life change. Did you have friends and family that were out in Chicago already, like a well-built network, or was that something you had to start from the ground up?
That was something I had to start from the ground up. And honestly, I've never had like really close, real deep connections with people. And I've moved many times. So I grew up in Ohio, and I actually moved from Ohio to California, where I stayed. So I moved, I was in California for I think 5 years, and then I moved to Chicago. But I really didn't have that many connections. So I ended up moving from Ohio to California with somebody, and then that fell apart. So I decided I would do it alone and to move from California to Chicago with really nothing but the job and the people at the job that knew me. So I had to build a friendship, a network just by myself.
It seems like it's really challenging now. It's funny that you mentioned that it was about 7 years ago. That was when I also made a change from moving from Central California down to San Diego for a job and with no friends in the city. And my own personal experience was it was really hard for me to meet friends because my life was all about work. And I wasn't like a bar hopping kind of person. And I just didn't quite know how to make new friendships in such a big city. How did you go about approaching that?
Wow. Well, I stumbled just as you did initially, because everything was about work, and I was hoping to make connections with people at work. But it turned out that my job wasn't in the city of Chicago when I moved to Chicago. I lived in the city, but I had to commute out to the suburbs.
That's like backwards. Usually it's the other way around.
Yeah.
You live in the suburbs and commute to the city. Crazy.
Yeah, I know. And it was so crazy because I was hoping that people also lived in the city of Chicago, but most people, they worked in the suburbs and they lived in the suburbs, especially around the age I moved out there. And I was like in my early 30s. So it was even more difficult to connect with people. So after realizing that, well, I'm not going to be able to connect with my coworkers in a way because there was a huge age gap. Essentially, there were the people who already had their home and homebodies and a family and a life and stuff like that. And
Age, Yeah, so like you said, hey, Friday night, let's go out to the bar or something. And they're like, oh, I got the kids in diapers and
Soccer,
stuff.
yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Soccer practice and stuff in the Saturday morning. They didn't have time for that. And then there's other people, the other group were the ones who just graduated from college, and they're like, yeah, let's go to the bar on Thursday night, and let's go on Friday night, and on Saturday night,
and Monday.
What are you doing for brunch? No, I can't hang with you guys. I'm not with that.
Yeah. So what was the tipping point for you? I mean, I'm guessing since you've stayed there that you ended up making some friends. How did you actually break the ice?
Well, a couple of things. I'll tell you a little bit about the story quickly. A couple of things I tried was to go to places in which I wasn't drinking. So initially I would go to the bars and stuff and just try to connect with someone over some kind of conversation like, oh, Chicago's great, isn't it? What you like about Chicago? And hopefully that we'll find some way to connect, right?
Right.
Because that's what I learned, and I thought I was supposed to do that, but that just never worked. And so I decided, well, I would stop drinking alcohol and I'll go try to do something like a club related event, like join a club. And I ended up doing Toastmasters. I don't know if you're familiar with Toastmasters.
Oh yeah, the public speaking.
Yes, public speaking. And I decided that I would just be everywhere with it. I enjoyed it so much that public speaking, there's like different chapters or different clubs throughout the city. There has to be more than 100. So I set this goal for myself to visit 100 clubs within a year, because it's in Chicago, so there are so many here and there and everywhere.
Wow, I can't believe there's 100 Toastmasters clubs in Chicago metro area. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's so much more. So it was just amazing, and I set my goal to do that because I'm going to meet somebody with the same kind of idea, the mindset, right? Everybody likes public speaking. We'll have a place to connect, and Toastmasters has like if you visit one club, you visited them all, because essentially they have like the same kind of setup. Everybody claps for everybody, greetings and stuff like that. And so I felt at home with every club, but I still just couldn't connect with the people because outside of the club, I really didn't know them, and I couldn't get that friendship created. So although people knew me, they didn't really know me. So right here, I figured, well, there's something that needs to change in this. And I ended up dating somebody who told me I needed to go to counseling because I was the problem.
Wow.
Yeah, they told me, and I believed them because I had no sense of my own self. And that was the key. So I learned to be more mindful of myself in this process of finding friendships. And that was the thing that I needed to really make friendships. So I was wandering around from, let's say, Ohio to California to finally Chicago, and wandering around in the second largest city and not being able to find a friend, someone to connect with. Well, the common denominator is me. And it was the lack of sense of self.
That's what they always say. They say the common denominator is you. I mean, I've been told it myself too.
It's me. You ever seen these I'm on TikTok a whole lot, and I saw this video where someone like looks at themselves or looks at their friend and they say, oh, I found the problem to all of my problems. And they look at a mirror and it's like, oh, it's me.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, that was my epiphany. So I had that. And so I started to learn more about what I wanted to do, like what I really enjoyed. Because I discovered in therapy that, well, I was just a person who was a blank template. I would show up at places and not really have any opinions or thoughts about anything. And that was because I didn't want to be rejected.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so I realized that I was a people pleaser, and nobody likes people pleasers. That really, I've discovered that. What's that?
You're saying people don't like being pleased? Like people pleasers?
They don't like people pleasers.
So what do you mean by that exactly? Like, why would somebody not like somebody else that would want to please them? You know what I'm saying?
Because, well, the people pleasers, essentially, I believe that they have a mindset, or I'm going to speak from my experience. I had a mindset in which I really didn't care about what I was giving the other person to make them happy. I was just trying not to be disliked. So if they told me that they wanted a specific action from me and I was unable to do it, then I would be frustrated and I'd be angry. But if it was something that I was able to do, I'd be more than happy to do it. So they wouldn't know what kind of person they were getting from me. And also, if they asked me for something particular, specific, that they say, hey, I want to do this. And if it was not in my capabilities, then I wouldn't. So they wouldn't be pleased in the first place. It wasn't about what they wanted. It was about me giving them something that I hoped that they wouldn't reject me for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So is this something that had followed you your entire life? Like as long as you floated back to remember your friendships?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it sounds like, I mean, if that's the case, because I think of in environments where I find myself shifting into that people pleaser role, I don't feel fulfilled in those relationships. I feel like I'm showing up, I'm saying what needs to be said, and then kind of like walking on eggshells so that everybody likes me, but then also feeling not truly seen or heard, and then getting frustrated about that. But then, like you're saying, it's really comes back to you because you haven't allowed people to know you. So is that something that you can empathize with?
Exactly it. I mean, you have captured my entire experience right there in those sentences, because that's exactly what I was doing. I just wasn't aware that I was doing that. I was just so afraid of being rejected. But I believe the cosmic joke is that I felt like I was doing everything to have people around me so I wouldn't be alone. But essentially I was alone because I didn't give anybody anything to know about me. And so just discovering that about myself was huge. So then I had to go on the journey of learning more about myself and what I wanted and what I wanted to do. And a lot of people talk about self-discovery, and that's it. That's what why we need it. That's why we need it.
So in that self-discovery, because when I'm thinking back of those moments when I've like shifted into that people pleaser role, what I think goes through my head is like, if I was to analyze my own self-talk, it's I'm weird. Like people aren't going to get my weird. And they're going to find out that I'm so weird.
Amen, sister.
And they're going to find out that I'm so weird that they're just going to not want to be around me. So it's easier for me if I go along with X, Y, and Z so that I'm accepted, so that I don't risk the rejection because people think I'm too weird. Like, was that kind of your self-talk, or what was going through your head? Okay.
Absolutely. I laugh because I'm like, you are saying the words, you are in my head.
Yes.
You're saying the exact same words, because we have that sensation. It's like somebody's going to not like me, and I just can't have that. And we all go through this. This is what I discovered, that we all go through something like that. It might be that whatever it is too complex and you have to explain it to them, and you're frustrated because you have to explain it to them. You're going to look weird because you like this thing and they don't like it and they don't understand it, and you don't want to talk about it. You'd rather not even go through the process of opening your mouth to explain anything to them because you have to go through this whole rigmarole. Wouldn't it just be easier if somebody just understood what you were saying? But these people aren't it. Right. And I'm too afraid to figure out where to find those people that will actually like me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like there's another side of that too. There's those that think that they're too weird, but then there's the other group of individuals who may have endured a lot of trauma or heavy stuff in their life, and they think, I'm too much. My baggage is too much for anybody else. So it's easier for me to keep things shallow and surface level so that I don't have to let you know. It was in this movie called One Fine Day. It was George Clooney and Michelle Pfeiffer, and they talk about their deep, dark chocolate layer. Like, it's too much. My deep, dark chocolate layer is so deep that, like, I can't let anybody else see it unless they also have a deep, dark chocolate layer, but I have to figure out if they have it or not. And it becomes these, like, surface types of friendships where you don't go deep. And did you find that also had a role to play?
Right. I absolutely believe that is absolute truth. I think that we have to go through that process, though. And even though there's trauma there, what I discovered is that everyone's not entitled to see that deep, dark chocolate layer. Everyone doesn't get to see it because not everybody has the emotional capacity to handle that. No, not everybody can hold space for how intense that is. They don't have the feels or the skills to know that. And it's not therapists that can do that for you. It's true friends that can really create that friendship for you and be that. So you always want to share whatever it is that is inside of you. We're always going to have a desire to do that with at least one person. And so discovering that about myself, and discovering that about others as well, I've worked out something that helps people create that space. Because I was going around in the people pleasing phase, believing that I needed to fit in with other people. I needed to make sure that I would just fit just right, or give them what they need, is figure out what it is. Don't say the wrong thing. Don't say the weird thing, so that they will like me. And then I flipped the script on that, and I just come up with something that helps us show ourselves, not the deep, dark chocolate layer, but at least something that's important to us, so that we can gauge the other people's reaction to us to see if they fit with us.
That's a really unique perspective, because it sounds almost like you're allowing people to audition to be your friend instead of automatically assuming that you're going to be friends with everybody, and friends being like the quote unquote friends, the acquaintances, or, I think that that's like
awesome.
Oh, what was that? Go ahead.
That is awesome. I mean, I like the auditioning thing, because I believe that is actually it. And if I could share, I'm fine with sharing exactly what I mean, the steps to it, if
absolutely.
that's okay. Okay, so when we talk to people and we're connecting, we're looking for people that are like us, or that can hold emotional space with us. We're looking for people who know us and who are like us. Like you and I, we have a pretty cool connection right here, because you can understand my experiences, and you keep reflecting back. And it's like you're in my head, so you understand that. We're looking for people like that for us. And the only way that we're going to find those kind of people is to share stories about us. And it really clicked for us in this podcast episode when we were talking about, being a people pleasers, moving from California, those things. I started to tell you stories about me, and you could see yourself in those. You can reflect those.
Right.
And so what I ask my clients to do is share stories, but these stories have to contain 4 things. They have to contain 4 things, and I call it the GIST method, the JIST, the GIST method, where you share something that is joyful. Your story must be joyful, because when you share something that's joyful, you're going to invoke joy in the other person. I mean, that's the emotion that people gravitate to.
What about
if it's funny, if it's interesting?
But
go ahead.
Yeah, the difference is what happens when people cross the line and it goes from joyful to more like bragging,
When if I were to tell you a story that's bragging?
No, I'm saying, like you said, when someone says something that's very joyful, you meet somebody for the first time, it's telling you something very joyful. But for some people, it may not come across that way. It may come across kind of like they're bragging about something. And
that's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question, Chris, because if I'm being joyful, I'm just saying, like, from my point of view, if I'm sharing a story that's joyful, but the person in front of me is hearing something that's bragging, then we know that we're not going to be a great connection.
Right off the bat. So step 1, they're done.
Yes, exactly. And truly, the other pieces make it more solidified, but you will definitely know, like, if they're not sharing the joy, if they're reflecting back another emotion at you, if they're angry at you for sharing this, if they're shaming you for sharing your story.
Jealousy, it happens too. Yeah.
Yeah, goodbye. You are not getting the part as my friend.
There you
You're
go.
off the stage.
Here comes the
hook. You're off the stage. And so the second piece of it, the gist. So the J is joyful. The second is important. It's I, important. The story has to be important to you, because you want to show something. You want to show, like, it's not a benign instance. It's something that kind of shaped your life in a meaningful way. So my move from California to Chicago shaped my life in a meaningful way. And it's a joyful story. I can willingly share that, so knowing those things about yourself and sharing them with another person, well, then you'll see how they'll respond to you. And, well, this is a joyful, important story to me. Well, looks like you're not getting the part still. But then it goes into the next piece, which is the S, which is secure. So joyful, important, and secure. You got to be secure about your story, because they may be jealous of you. They may try to shame you. But if you're secure about it, it shows that you're comfortable and you know how you feel about this story. No matter what they say, you're okay with it. And it really helps in creating those kind of friendships that are solidified, because you're not looking for approval. You're looking to see how they feel about your story.
Gotcha.
You're looking to see how they feel about you. Yeah. And so you want to be secure in that. No people pleasing. No none of that. because it's a story about your life.
And it's very confidence too. Like you come in with some confidence and tell them, exactly the truth, and don't lie. I guess the big thing is don't lie. Don't lie. Don't say I walked on the moon yesterday. Don't say that. I mean, you gotta be real.
See, Kris, you're right on the same page with me, because the last one is the T, and that's the truth.
There you
gotta
go.
make sure that you tell the truth. Yeah, tell the truth about who you are, because that's what you want. You want to see. So this is a prompting. The GIST method is a prompting to see if they're able to even get to that chocolate layer. If they can't get past your regular benign story about you moving across the country, then there is no space for them anywhere else.
I love that so much. And I was thinking through conversations I've had with people, like when we first meet, and I think, oh my gosh, like they might be a really cool person for me to hang out with. And it really is telling when you start to share stories about your background of like, for me, it's overcoming my starting over down here in San Diego. Normally when people ask me, they'll ask me about like my tattoo. I have this tattoo on my wrist and it says "She is fierce." And they're like, oh, well, what does that mean? Well, when I tell them that story, it really does follow your GIST method, because I was really excited to get my tattoo. It was important to me because it was like a stance against coming out of an abusive marriage, and that where I was forbidden to get a tattoo. It was like my overcoming and reclaiming my life. And then the S part was secure. Like it was me being secure in, leaving that relationship and sharing my story of overcoming domestic violence and speaking that truth. And there's some people that can't handle that. Like there's some people that are like, wow, that's a lot in a tattoo. And I'm like, you're right.
What?
And like, yeah, it is a lot in a tattoo. You didn't react how I wanted. That's not going to be a good match. But then there's others that are like, that's so powerful. I relate to that because of my background, X, Y, and Z, or, and they can kind of connect. And I think of that's actually helped me establish some friendships. But on the flip side, it's also helped me weed out some other people that
absolutely
don't have a right to hear my stories.
Yeah, because I'm sure that if you started to talk about some things that have happened in your previous marriage, because somehow they might just come up, they'd be like, "Why did you do that?" Or
oh right, why
like
didn't
that.
you leave? Why didn't? Yeah, those kinds of things. Yeah.
That's not very comforting. And then
Right.
we and imagine if we just opened up and showed people our chocolate layer so quickly and easily, and people like that got into it. That's just so much more damaging.
It'd be like a kid, like on their birthday when they give them that first cake and they just make a mess all over their face.
Except it wouldn't be a good tasting mess for sure.
Right.
Yeah. And I think about that. Sometimes friendships can be really messy when you get like a lot of friends at a surface level that you haven't really let know your true self. Is when you try to go deep and they're not prepared for it, or you have a misaligned friendship, things get messy. There's drama. And then for me, it's like I isolate and I try to get away from it because I just don't have the mental capacity.
But don't you have to have kind of have cues on when you should actually go to that deeper level with the people?
With a friendship?
Yeah. Like you shouldn't just like drop out like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm so-and-so and I did this." And it's something crazy, and like, what? What? I just want to ask you for breakfast. I didn't know you were going to tell this whole story about your background.
I mean, you bring up a really good question. So Coach Lee, like for individuals that might be struggling with finding friends or making friends before they can get to the GIST method, how do they get out of their shell and start opening themselves up to meet new people and taking that risk?
All right. Well, yeah, that's a great question, honestly. And I've developed something awesome for that too, because I went through this whole process and I really love just things that have alliteration. So I tell people to search for or know 3 things about you. Talk about your history, your hobbies, and your habits. You want to know those things about yourself. And you make a list or something to know what's important about those things to you. You want to focus on what's the most important about them. So your history is essentially your identity. What are the things that you've gone through? How do you identify? Like you asked me what my pronouns were, things like that. You want to know what those things are. And you want to be in spaces in which you can talk about those places. If you're a queer person like I am, you want to talk about that. Then you make sure that you go to spaces in which you can talk about it. So then if there was something that related to that problem, you'll make friends that will allow you to speak about it. There will be no mistake because that is something that's very important to you in your life.
Good
And then
point.
your hobbies. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, I said good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And then your hobbies, those things are important to you, the joyful things. Like I like this idea of joy. You have to be able to express joy because that's the thing we always want to do. We're always looking to seek comfort, to seek happiness. We're looking for that. And if you run into somebody who doesn't show that they're interested or appreciate the thing that you appreciate, if you're always trying to drag them into going to board games, like I love board games, so I go to places in which I play board games. I could never be connected to somebody who always says that you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time on board games. They don't celebrate the happiness for me. They don't understand why I want to do it. We can't be friends. So knowing that stuff about yourself is off the top. You need to know your history, your hobbies, and finally your habits. Those are those things that you do on a daily basis, the things that make up your lifestyle. If you're getting up at 5 a.m. and you connect with somebody who's going to bed at 5 a.m., you clearly have different lifestyles and it's going to be hard for you to connect. If you're a go-getter, you're working 13 hours a day and you connect with somebody who's working 4 hours a day, you're going to be disappointed when they can't connect with you because they're so busy. They're so busy.
Right.
Yeah. And so knowing those things about them, you're looking for those small things, but it really will add up in the relationship or your connection with them as a friend because you'll know if they're emotionally available for you or they're exhausted because they're at work all day or you want to talk about the things that happened at work. Like if somebody was working a 13-hour day and they were talking to somebody who worked a 4-hour day, they'd be like, dude, my day is so exhausting. I'm so tired. Well, really, I didn't really do much today. I just had a really chill day. We won't be able to relate to each other. It's going to be hard to. So I tell people to look for their history, hobbies, and habits. Like focus on those things. Know those things about yourself and what's important. And to do that, I recommend journaling, reflecting back on your past experiences because the truth of who you are and how you behave and all that stuff it's in your past. It'll show up for you.
I think that's really true. And one of the things that I've been thinking about as we've been talking through the GIST method and then the history, habits, and what's the third one?
The history, hobbies, and habits.
History, hobbies, and habits is if I'm somebody listening to this right now and I'm feeling very lonely and feeling like I don't have any friends, this sounds like a whole lot more work. And if I'm that person that's listening, I might be thinking, why do I even try? Like it's easier to just be my own best friend than to go out and like risk it and try to make new friends. What would be your message to them?
Wow. Well, I would say definitely you have to be your own best friend first before you can connect with anybody else. So I would say kudos to you for thinking about taking time to know more about yourself. This isn't really for anybody else. Everything is just for you to learn yourself. Because when you do this for yourself, when you really get to know yourself, because that's been my experience as a people pleaser, starting to learn more about what's important to me and not considering what other people around me want me to do or how they want me to think, but just knowing what it is for myself, becoming my own best friend. I started to go out to places that I liked and did things that I liked and found that I was just talking to people about something that I enjoyed without any pressure. And the conversation was effortless and the connection was effortless because I was just being myself. And that's how I made my friends. It's not about going out and intentionally trying to target friends in this case. It is really just being yourself, and the people around you will be the people that are like you. And you'll find that being friendships is not forced. It's easy.
Right. So, Lee, what do you say about the kids that are, say, maybe peer pressured into falling to one group or another? Usually girls, the mean girl group or the bully groups, at school.
Why do you gotta point fingers at us girls?
Yeah, well, okay. I'm just saying that, like my son, my oldest son is 10 years, or what is he, 12 years
12
old.
years old.
12 years old. Oh my goodness, he's 12 already. Oh my goodness. So he's 12, and he's in 7th grade now. And I think 7th grade is you start finding more of your cliques and more of your friends and your groups and your buddies. And he brags he's got like so many friends. He's a cool kid in school. I don't know. They're a bunch of goofballs. But I was just wondering, when kids that are in that age, I mean, in school, it's when you really meet your friends or make your friends, really. But it can be so difficult for kids, like like some either go with one group or another, or will be forced to go to a group they don't really feel comfortable with. I think that was a plot line of Mean Girls, wasn't it? Like that girl she wouldn't fit in with the Mean Girl group, but
right, Katie.
They made her go into the group anyways, or something like that.
Well,
I mean,
she kind of got the, shiny object syndrome by, being with these popular girls who wanted her because they thought she was cool, but it wasn't a fulfilling friendship for her. It was like this destructive friendship. And so I think that that's something that when I think of teens and I think of how they're conditioned to start building friendships is there's so many signals out there to be in the popular crowd and to get into this friend group or that friend group who really aren't focused on who you are as a person necessarily, but what value you add to their life in terms of, street cred
That's
or
selfish.
labels.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so it seems like our kids start to learn from a pretty young age this pattern of less than fulfilling friendships or having to show up a certain way to be accepted. So how do we as parents help switch that mindset for our kids as they're out there facing this right now?
Well, that's a really great question, both you and both of you. And if I could just dodge it for a quick and go back to the 10 and 12 thing, the pandemic has taken 2 years from everybody. So don't feel bad about the 10 and 12 thing. But anyway, that was a bad joke. But I'll go back. I'm going to go back to that and just preface it by that I don't have any kids. And I'm just speaking from the experience that I would have liked to my parents to show for me and to help me build that sense of self. So I discovered my sense of self in my 30s, mid to late 30s. I really started to come in to understand more about who I am and what I want. And one of the key things that allowed me to feel more comfortable and secure in who I was somebody telling me that whatever I experienced was valid. So how I felt about things in the world was real and it was true and it was okay. So I would be more mindful of how I felt about the experiences that I was having. So for example, if people were saying that everything is right and I'm saying it's wrong, I would be conditioned to follow the crowd because no one has told me ever that what I'm feeling is wrong and it's okay. And it's okay to feel that way.
Right.
So going against the grain or going against the group, I wouldn't be able to stand a chance because everybody said this is right. So I need to do that right thing, even though inside it didn't feel that way. So if the group is saying we need to go this way, we need to do this thing, but personally I don't feel that way, I never developed the skill to say no. I didn't have the language. I didn't have the awareness that it was even possible. So I think what our parents could do for us is to tell us, to listen to us, and to help us put words to the feelings that we have about the situations that we describe to them. So if I describe I don't want to be with these people, or I don't like what they're doing, then how does it make you feel when you do these things?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just to give us ourselves awareness that, we're betraying ourselves. We're not doing the thing that really feels genuine and good to us. And because we're doing that, we're showing up as a fake person to these people. They're not going to be our real friends. We're not going to be happy. But we won't know that until we discover how we feel about the situation. So,
I think that's super wise. And I'm listening as you're talking. I don't know if I know for a fact, I didn't have that awareness that I needed to be my own best friend as I was growing up.
mm-hmm.
And so I would easily compromise on things that, I mean, you literally I had a light bulb moment where you're talking about betraying yourself. Well, things that betrayed my own values and the way that I was raised and what I knew was right and wrong. And in the pit of my stomach, I would do things that I felt like, I know this isn't right. And in my head, I know this isn't right. And this doesn't feel good, but the reward is going to be acceptance from my peers.
Absolutely.
And I would get new friends from it, or I would get to solidify friendships or finally be into the quote unquote in crowd when I walk away from it, that whatever that situation was. And I did it. I'm still not accepted. And on top of that, I don't feel good about myself. And so then it just makes you feel more and more lonely and isolated and rejected and like a failure.
Absolutely. And, I found myself rolling my eyes at the people that I was connected with. Like, man, if I just don't agree with anything that you're saying. I don't like anything that you're saying. Also, I'm judging them all the time because I want to be not alone, but I really would like to express how I feel about the things that you're doing. I don't like them. I think it's stupid. And I think you're stupid and all that. I've had that resentment towards them because I directed it like, well, you're not letting me be myself. You can't understand the things that I'm saying. You think I'm weird, but I'm awesome. But I'm not going to tell you that because I'm afraid that you're not going to think I'm awesome.
Right. And I bet it gets even harder if it's like, say, a coworker that you may see on a regular basis who has those kind of like, you're trying to connect with your coworker, like you're saying, but then you're like, gosh, like you're with them so long throughout the day and you kind of want to tell somebody else the things you don't like about that person. Yep. But you're with that person. You're trying to, I mean, I know the thing, you're trying to connect, but you can't, but you kind of feel like you're forced to because you work together, or something like that. So you can't, that awkwardness of it, but they do have rules. They do have rules about that. There's an HR, big old thing on HR I had to do about harassment and things like that. But I guess it falls into that situation, really.
Yeah, it's just it's so like it betrays your values essentially, and you don't value the things that you're doing. So you're just like, oh, this is not me, but I'm here because I believe I need to be because somebody has told me that it's worth it to be around these people, and somehow I believe it, and so you do.
Yeah. It's so funny. As you've been talking, I've been floating through like my memories of friendship growing up. And I remember this one instance. You're going to get a kick out of this. I remember I was in 8th grade and I had this friend. We had been friends since like 3rd or 4th grade. But in middle school, my mom told me that I was falling in with a bad crowd and that she didn't like
the bad crowd.
Yeah, she didn't like the person that I was.
Girls.
Well, she didn't like the person that I was becoming when I was around them. So she started to come to my school to do parent patrol, which is they'd actually give her a walkie-talkie.
That's gotta be the cool. You gotta be the cool kid if your mom does parent patrol.
But you've got to listen to the story. I mean, there's more to it. So first of all, that's a dedicated mom to be like, you're not being your best form of yourself, and I'm going to see who you're hanging out with, and we're going to put a stop to this. But of that crowd that I was hanging out with, that I was just going along with whatever they were doing, there was this friend who I'd known since, we'd been in Girl Scouts together all growing up. And I remember one day at lunch in 8th grade, she confronted me, and it was our whole group of friends. There was like these 5 girls. They were kind of like gothic emo. And she's like, I don't know if we want you to hang out with us anymore. And I was like, what did I do? And she's like, you're so fake. And I was like, what do you mean I'm so fake? And she's like, you don't even, like, you just go along with everything. You don't have an opinion. Like, you don't even think for yourself. Like, we want you to be who you really are. And I was like, well, if I'm that person, she might not fit in with you. Cause I like who I really was like this very conservative church girl. And like here they were into like the Doors music and like talking about the movie Dazed and Confused.
I love that movie, by the way.
Yeah. So like that's that's how outside of my norm I was. And I remember that moment. And it was funny because my mom was on parent patrol that day. And she looked at me and she was like, Kristine, like my mom did. And she's like, Kristine, because she knew I was hanging out with the kids I shouldn't. And I just walked away. And I didn't really hang out with that group ever again. But it was like that realization of, oh my gosh, I am being so fake right now. And this is so far different from who I am. But we just get into these patterns of trying to find connection wherever we can and trying to find acceptance wherever sometimes it seems easiest. And I don't know if those patterns change when we're adults, that we just...
I don't think so. I think when you get adults, you start to like, it starts to become more of like, what can me hanging out with you benefit me? Like, oh, you got a cool boat? Oh, I like boats.
But that's using people.
I'm free Saturday. Yeah. You gonna sail? Yeah. Okay.
Or we just kind of limit ourselves to our spouse becoming, our other best friend, which is definitely great, or our partner, significant other. But
also Yeah,
ahead.
you need somebody in your life to talk about your spouse to. And always in any relationship, any relationship I've been in, I've left all my friends to get into my relationship and be with my relationship. But then when I have an argument or a disagreement or I need to see something in a different light, I don't have anybody else to talk to. And we need somebody to talk to
Yes.
about that. We need somebody to talk to about it. Like, what do you think they would like? Or if this and that, they need to know enough about us and our experience with the other person that we can trust them. We need to develop something like that with another person because our spouse cannot be everything to us. They have a whole another life and other things that happen with them that they have to deal with. They have their own patterns of behavior to look at. Comment on that curiosity about how the pattern will repeat. I also, your story, I really appreciate that you shared it. I thought it was really amazing that you went through this process and you kind of saw like the rejection and you felt okay with it. It seemed like you were like, oh yeah, this is a realization. But the pattern changes, I think, only when we run into something that is really significant that will give us a feeling that it's okay that we are ourselves. So they rejected you because you weren't yourself. But if you run into somebody who allows you to be the weirdest, funniest, goofiest, strangest person and not flinch, then you feel more connected. You'll feel that connection, that feeling that you've never felt before. And so I think that's what changes the pattern. At least that's what happened for me because I did all the people pleasing and been frustrated throughout all my friendships, all my relationships. I moved from place to place to place, believing that all the other people were the problem, not me. But then when I ran into somebody who said, you're fine, you're okay, you're good. This was therapy, by the way. And then,
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah.
yeah. And then I was like, wow, this is amazing. I like the way this feels. I don't like how this is showing up in my relationship or my friendships. What did I do in therapy to change that? Oh, I did this. So I'm going to change this about myself and look and notice how the world changes around me. And so that was my experience. And so that's why I do what I do as well. It's like, it's been so fulfilling and satisfying for me to have that feeling of somebody telling me that I'm enough, that I can do it for other people so that they can know what it feels like. So when they encounter situations in which they feel like they're not enough, they can refer back to the situation or experience with me and know that they are enough and they can muster that themselves. They just need to know how to create it for themselves. And so what I do is essentially give the tools to create it.
I was just going to ask that. So building off of that, what do you do to help people build these deeper relationships and friendships through your different platforms, podcasting, website, and coaching?
Well, I definitely share stories about me and my experience, just like you did, because we want to be related in our experiences. Like, you got to know that I've had these experiences and I felt the same way you have. And here's some of the tools that I did. So I share my story in my podcast. I talk about some experiences that I've had, like fights with my girlfriend or friends, and some things I tried to do to develop friendships that didn't work and what I learned from those so that you can all learn from my experience. So that's my podcast, Patterns of Possibility. I talk about those things. And then when I coach people, I listen to their stories and basically I tell them that they are valid. They're right about however they feel about anything because they are. I can't tell them about I can't change how they felt. They can just express that. And I reflect back how they felt about it so that they know what they are feeling is real and genuine and true to themselves. So they take that real, genuine, true to themselves feeling, whatever value it is that they discovered about themselves. And they're like, yeah, this is me. I'm comfortable with it. They only need one person to do it for them. And then they can do it for the rest of their lives.
Nice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so who is your target audience and how do you go about getting coaching clients?
Well, my target audience is the 25 to 40-year-old and usually male gamers. But
Why do you say gamers specifically? I mean,
gamers. Well, because
online, like video game gamers or others?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's so easy to get caught up in the lack of control that we feel about the world that will sink into trying to play in a game that gives us a sense of control and power and connection to people when it's not really genuine. We don't get
Really?
to express our full selves.
I had
We don't
no
get to
idea.
express our full selves.
I
Sorry.
had no idea that those were connected like that. Like a gamer. Yeah, it blows my mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because that's what I did. That's what I
Okay.
did.
So you're reflecting on it. I get it now. Yeah.
I'm reflecting on it, but also I see that a lot. To answer Christine's question about where do I go, I look at Reddit quite a bit, and I see there's a healthy gamer Reddit subthread, and I kind of scroll through there, and there's a lot of young men who are talking about how they really have no direction. They play games a whole lot. They don't know how to connect with women. I'm not a coach for dating or anything, but just connection in general. You need to find your sense of self before you can connect with anybody. So there are so many people talking about how they're addicted to games and their feelings, expressing their feelings. A lot of people describe a scenario where they're asking for help and advice, and the kind of help and advice they get are from people who are having the same problem. So I look at that and I think, well, there's nobody to provide any kind of clarity for them.
It's like the
They're getting
blind leading the blind, huh?
Exactly. Right off the proverbial cliff there. But yeah, and so I see that and I'm just like, wow, and I relate to those experiences too, because I felt that way. I felt like nobody was interested in me. I had no direction. I couldn't talk to anybody. I felt like people didn't like me. And if you go there yourself and you scroll through, you can see tons and tons of people that feel that same way. And they believe that they're alone. And they're not alone, because there's so many people who are having the same experience in the first place. But I help out with that. I help relate to them and help them realize that they have more control over their life than they believe.
That sounds like it's such life-affirming work for you. I would think that if I was in that space, that while it would kind of stretch you to like learn and grow in helping to empower others, that it might be very rewarding to see others turn a corner and being able to build these deep, lasting connections that they haven't been able to for maybe their entire adult life.
Yes. You hit the nail on the head right again. I'm so happy. I feel like you really understand me very well.
Well, she
and I feel
is
seen and heard.
Dr. Christine over here.
She's Dr. Christine. Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like she really sees and hears me. This is exactly what I do for other people. I'm lighting up because you get me. So yes.
It's because we're supposed to be besties, Coach Lee. It was just meant to be.
You had me at jet ride.
So building off of what you've shared about how you empower others and how you work alongside different individuals, for our listeners that are out there that this might have piqued their curiosity or be tugging at their heart because they know it's an area where they can stretch and grow, where can they find out more about your services and your strengths that they can tap into?
Absolutely. You can find me at patternsofpossibility.com. I have a 30-day friendship challenge, and I also have a free guide to making friendships. Essentially, it's called journal prompts. So I talked about how we talk about our stories, we talk about ourselves in order to get to know other people. So the journal prompts, there's 50 journal prompts, and it includes what connection is, definitions and stuff for connection, and of course the gist method explained. So you don't have to wonder what it means, but it'll help you put those stories that you know about yourself, reflecting on your experiences, in a format that you can share with other people. So you can find that at my website, patternsofpossibility.com. And I'm on all social media. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm out there. And of course, Reddit. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
So, Coach Lee, before we wrap up, I just was wondering if you have any words of wisdom that you would like to impart with our listeners about either getting to know themselves better or making friendships that last.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I would really like to encourage you to know that your experience of feeling alone is not unique. You've just heard two people here talk about their experiences feeling like no one wanted to know us. And I believe that when you decide to speak your truth or talk about how you really feel about things, you're going to find people that really know you, and you're going to find fulfillment in that. It's going to be icky. It's going to be a process, but it is going to be worth it, and you can do it. So I just want to encourage you to continue to learn more about yourself and continue to grow, continue to share, and be yourself.
Well,
Oh,
thank
wonderful.
you so much, Coach Lee. These are definite words of wisdom, and I know that they're going to have a great impact on our listeners. And so, listeners, definitely check out our show notes from today to find out more about Coach Lee and his services, as well as his podcast and his coaching. And we wish you all the best of luck in developing deep and meaningful friendships. If you love music and podcasting, now you can have both. Introducing the brand new K2 radio station, available 24/7 on the Live 365 app for free.
Specializing in rock and alternative music, we're talking bands like Coldplay, Nirvana, Muse, Imagine Dragons, and yes, even the Rolling Stones. They have all stopped by to drop off songs, and we even have brand new popular tracks added every single day.
Also on the free K2 radio station, we are including podcasting. Get the best of both worlds. Download the free Live 365 app or listen online at live365.com and type in K2 Radio. Yeah, I really love talking with Coach Lee today. I think that was just a really fun time, and not just hearing about his experience in Chicago, but thinking through how I developed friendships, and it actually made me think a lot about you.
Oh, really? Do explain now. Clover and I are curious to know.
Well, first of all, it made me think of you because you always tell me that you're your own best friend.
I am. So that's what I've already got. Step one already done, taken care of. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you might have done that, but the next step is actually making other friends.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you just can't get past step one.
I do worry about you because you tell me, like, other than just being like by yourself and being your own friend and having me, I just worry about, like, how can I get you to help develop some deep friendships with other people of the same sex. Like, I don't want you to start going out and making best friends with like other women. Like that's threatening to me.
Yeah, it is. And I do connect with both sexes very, very easily and very well. So I'm like the best friend to everybody, So
the best friend to everybody, but the deep friend to no one. Because you really don't let them know the real you. Because you talk about like podcasting stuff and things like that.
That's true. Yeah.
And it was interesting. You didn't really chime in. And when I was talking with Coach Lee about friendships, why was that?
You were just going, and I didn't want to, steal your thunder.
Or did you just not want to be vulnerable?
That's probably most of it, really. Like I do like to hide a lot of my inner, self. I guess I don't try to I guess the deep dark me. It really I keep
your deep chocolate layer.
Yes, my deep. It's not chocolate. It's more like lava, not like chocolate lava, but like real lava. And I try to keep that actually very to myself.
But that has to be so lonely, honey, because you're such a nice guy. I think that if you could really open yourself up to some new friendships that do more than talk about podcasting, but like connect with you around not just your hobbies, but your history, your habits, like Coach Lee was saying, that we can help you find some really great friendships, because I love being your best friend and I love being your partner. But I think sometimes that you get lonely with just having me to talk to and the kids to talk to. I think you need to make some more friends.
Well, thanks, babe. I really appreciate that.
But I know it's hard for you though, because like you have your guys at work that you talk to.
Yeah, but even them, they don't get they're different in many different ways. So
right, because it's not deep.
No, not just that. It's that they have their world, which is completely different than my world. And sometimes it doesn't relate very well,
Yeah. So maybe we need to think about like building some friendships with couples that we both get along with so that we can like hang out and do stuff with. But then again, I think that it is good for you to have some friends. So maybe that's going to be a goal that I give you, is to make some more good male friends.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Why not? Well,
I mean, it was a lot of good food for thought for us. And I love talking with you, but I also want you to, like, other than
talk
me,
to somebody else.
Well, I mean, have more people to talk to. Cause like when you get mad at me, who do you vent to?
Clover here. Clover hears all my troubles. Clover's like the best therapist.
She's the best friend.
She just hears all my nonsense, and she looks at me like, huh? What? Okay. I gotta feed me or what? I gotta feed.
She's like, I listen to you. Where's my scoop of my yum-yums?
Yes. And she'll say, hey, by the way, I know you don't want to hear this right now, Dad, but I left the present for you on the carpet. It's from me to you because I love you.
Funny.
I love you so much.
Clover Bear, she's so cute over there. Well, I did learn a lot from our conversation with Coach Lee today, and I hope that our listeners did too, and they can take some of what he said to help them in their relationships with themselves and with others to just have deeper and meaningful connections. Don't you?
Absolutely, babe. You got anything else, honey?
Nope. I just think that definitely look at our show notes and learn more about Coach Lee and his background. And Kris already plugged where you can find more about K2 Radio.
But in case you missed it, you plug it all. But
K2 Radio, Podtastic Audio, and this show you can find out about it on our website, which is krisandkristinесhow.com. And definitely subscribe to this podcast. Leave us a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we'll be back with you
next week.